Okay, let's be totally honest for a second. When artificial intelligence tools first hit the mainstream, there was an absolute collective panic in the education world. For a while there, it felt like the entire conversation was just consumed by fears of cheating, right? We were hearing all about ChatGPT writing term papers and people declaring the actual death of the traditional essay. But as the dust has kind of started to settle, and we're looking really closely at the research and guidelines coming out from places like the US Department of Education, we're realizing something much, much bigger is happening here. We are finally shifting past that initial wave of panic and looking toward a truly transformational potential in education. Seriously, we're standing at the edge of a massive structural shift in how teaching and learning actually work. Think about it. For over a century, education has leaned heavily on this industrial mass production model. You know, a one-size-fits-all approach. It was totally necessary for scale, sure, but it often left individual student needs completely unmet. Now, AI is offering us this incredibly real possibility of moving toward a model of personalized mastery. It's going to change the classroom dynamic forever. Let's dive into this explainer and see how. Here is our quick roadmap for today to demystify all of this. We're going to cover 1. The AI education shift. 2. Hyper-personalized student learning. 3. The educator's AI copilot. 4. Critical guardrails and equity. And finally, 5. The human AI horizon. All right, let's kick things right off with Section 1, the AI education shift, moving to personalized mastery. So first things first, we really need to understand what this technology actually is in a classroom context. Because, well, AI isn't just an upgraded search engine, and it certainly isn't just a superpowered calculator. It represents this massive, unprecedented leap in a computer's ability to detect complex patterns and automate instructional decisions. In the past, educational tech basically just gave us digital access to static resources. You were essentially just putting a heavy textbook on a glass screen. But today, AI looks at how a student interacts with a concept, it finds associations in that kid's unique data, and it automates a highly specific response. And this brings us to the rise of what we call Socratic AI tutors. Instead of an AI just spitting out the direct answer to a math problem, these systems are actually designed to ask guiding questions. They evaluate exactly where a student is stuck, and they prompt them gently. It's like having a tutor there, helping the student arrive at the answer themselves, totally based on their own unique learning patterns. And you can see how this completely changes the game. We are rapidly moving away from those familiar, clunky tech experiences where you're just clicking, typing, and reading standard text. The capabilities we're looking at now allow systems to process spoken language naturally, analyze a student's drawings, and adapt learning activities in real time. This unlocks something incredible called multimodal explanations. Imagine an AI system trying to teach the concept of photosynthesis to a really diverse classroom. Instead of just giving everyone the exact same standard textbook paragraph, the AI can explain that one single concept in 3 entirely different ways. It might spin up a visually rich story for a highly visual learner, or maybe it uses a mechanical coding metaphor for a tech-minded kid, or it even creates a quick interactive game for someone who learns through doing. It is literally about meeting the student exactly where their brain works best. Which naturally brings us to Section 2, hyper-personalized student learning, adapting to the individual mind. We've all felt the pain of the old way, right? When the curriculum pace is dictated by the class average, you inevitably end up with a room where some kids are just bored to tears because they already get it, while others are completely lost, sinking quietly in the back of the room. And the traditional feedback loop? It usually meant a student submitted an assignment and literally didn't find out they misunderstood the core concept until days or even weeks later when they got the red inked paper back. The AI-enabled way completely shatters this dynamic. The pace is now dictated by individual student mastery. Because intelligent tutoring systems provide these instant feedback loops, you get real-time course correction. If a student misunderstands step 2 in a 5-step algebra equation, the system catches it immediately. It explains the misstep right then and there, before the student bakes that bad habit into the rest of their homework. No student is left behind, and absolutely no student is held back. Now, what's really fascinating here is that true equity means expanding this adaptivity far beyond just fixing deficits. It's not just about telling a student they got an answer wrong. It means being asset-oriented, building heavily on what a student actually does well. This is an absolute game changer for accessibility. We now have systems capable of real-time translation, advanced speech-to-text, and dynamic pacing adjustments that specifically empower neurodivergent learners or kids who are facing language barriers. AI shouldn't just be grading math problems, you know? Its multimodal nature means it can facilitate open-ended, highly creative tasks, helping students build self-regulation and teamwork skills. It provides a supportive, accessible learning environment for literally everyone. All right, let's move into section 3, the educator's AI copilot. This is all about elevating the teacher. So, what about the teachers in all of this? The problem in our educational system right now is incredibly clear. If you look at this data from McKinsey, teachers are just massively overburdened. We're talking an average of 50 hours a week, and a gigantic chunk of that time is eaten up purely by administrative prep and evaluation. Over 10 hours a week spent entirely on preparation, drafting rubrics, writing repetitive emails to parents, filling out standard forms, manually organizing lesson materials. It is, without a doubt, a recipe for extreme burnout. And because of all that crushing administrative fatigue, get this, only 49% of a teacher's time is actually spent in direct interaction with their students. Think about that for a second. Less than half their time is spent doing the very thing they entered the profession to do, mentoring and connecting with kids. Historically, a teacher's time might have been split 60% on admin and prep and only 40% on mentorship. The whole goal of bringing AI into the classroom is to flip that ratio completely on its head. We are pushing toward a future where perhaps only 15% of a teacher's time is administrative, freeing up a massive 85% of their week for direct student mentorship. This shift is made possible through a really cool concept called intelligence augmentation, or IA for short. This is a human-centered partnership. It's a model where AI handles the heavy lifting of data and administration so the human can focus on high-level cognitive and emotional work. Let me give you a really specific scenario of what this looks like in practice. Imagine an AI system that analyzes class-wide homework data overnight. The next morning, before the bell even rings, it tells the teacher, hey, 70% of your class struggled with question 4, and here is exactly where the conceptual disconnect happened. The teacher no longer has to spend 3 hours grading to discover that trend. They step into the classroom immediately equipped to address it. AI empowers the teacher to move from being the sage on the stage, lecturing to the masses, to becoming the guide on the side, providing deeply personalized mentorship. But we have to be realistic here. Let's head into section 4, Critical Guardrails and Equity, Confronting the Risks. Look, with any technological leap this profound, we have to pause and confront the valid anxieties and structural challenges head on. Will AI replace teachers? The definitive answer from educational leaders is no. However, we have to ensure this transition doesn't create a massive new equity gap. We absolutely cannot allow a scenario where elite, well-resourced schools leverage AI to free up teachers for deep, project-based learning, while underfunded schools simply use AI as cheap, automated babysitting. Furthermore, we really have to ask if these systems are fair. Can we trust them not to misinterpret regional dialects? Can we be sure they won't unfairly flag marginalized students in automated disciplinary or grading systems? Dr. Nicole Turner makes a really profound point here. She says, technology doesn't discriminate, we do. Because AI algorithms learn from historical data, they completely lack human context. If we aren't careful, they can easily amplify our own historical biases. Plus, we have to contend with issues like hallucinations. When an AI just confidently presents totally false information as a stone-cold fact. And there's the very real danger of over-reliance. If a kid uses an AI to do literally all their thinking for them, they aren't learning. They are outsourcing their cognitive development. This is exactly why teaching AI literacy is now just as important as teaching math or reading. Students and educators alike have to learn how to audit, question, and aggressively double-check AI outputs. So to navigate all these pitfalls, policies have to be built on 4 very solid foundations. First, we have to center people. Humans must always be making the final calls. Second, we must advance equity by actively hunting down and eliminating algorithmic bias. Third, we have to ensure safety, putting a massive emphasis on data privacy to protect student info. And fourth, crucially, we must promote transparency. We absolutely cannot have black box algorithms deciding a student's disciplinary or academic future without a human being able to look under the hood and explain exactly why that decision was made. Just like any traditional educational tool, we have to hold AI to incredibly high standards of proof. The Elementary and Secondary Education Act outlines strict tiers of evidence for evaluating educational effectiveness. Think of it kind of like clinical trials for a new medicine. Just as a new drug has to go through rigorous, tiered clinical trials before being given to a patient, AI tools must go through rigorous evidence trials to prove they actually help students learn before they are ever allowed to enter a classroom. Finally, let's look ahead. Section 5, The Human AI Horizon, a co-pilot vision for tomorrow.
When we synthesize all of this, the core guiding principle moving forward is simply ACE, always center educators. In every single phase of the instructional process, whether administrators are out there selecting new tech tools, or teachers are prepping lessons, or during the actual real-time act of teaching, a human has to remain firmly in the loop. AI is the co-pilot, for sure, but the educator is always, always the one flying the plane.
The breakdown of this partnership perfectly illustrates why the human element is just completely irreplaceable. AI is fantastic at delivering information, grading quizzes, and generating customized exercises at an individual kid's speed. It can provide instant, step-by-step mathematical corrections and detect massive data patterns. But you know what it can't do? It can't inspire a struggling student. It cannot provide deep contextual empathy when a child is just having a terrible day at home. And it certainly cannot build human character. AI is an unbelievable engine for processing data, but it takes a human being to inspire, mentor, and shape the whole learner. So, what does this all mean? It means the future of education isn't humans versus AI. It is humans empowered by AI. The tools to unlock hyper-personalized learning and banish administrative burnout are finally right here in front of us, but they require our careful, deliberate stewardship. So the question I want to leave you with today is this: how will you help your community shape this incredible new co-pilot? How do we ensure that as our classrooms become more technologically advanced, they also remain profoundly, beautifully human? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.